Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, and I'm really excited about this show today. It's one that I have wanted to do for quite a while. But before we jump into it, I'd like to welcome back to the show the co-host of the show and the owner of PackYourPixieDust.com Travel. Welcome back to the show, Christy. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. How are you?
Not too bad. And we are bringing on a special guest today. But before we jump in today's show, I need to actually introduce our guest. Welcome to the show today, Brandon. How are you?
I'm doing great.
And Brandon, you come to us all the way from Houston, Texas. And as I was saying, you were one of the first people to reach out to us on social media when we started our podcast. And so it's great to finally have you on the show.
Great to be here.
So you took a cruise on the Disney Fantasy. It was a Star Wars Day at Sea, Western Caribbean sailing. And when was that?
It was April of 2016. About mid-April.
Okay. And this was kind of a special cruise for you and your family. And I thought we'd kind of talk about why it was I mean, every Disney cruise is special for everybody, but this one was really special for you. And I'm going to let you go ahead and talk about why it was so special.
Well, this cruise was a Make-A-Wish trip. My son, I have 4 kids, and my middle son, his name is Ammon, and he has a very rare heart condition. It's known as just the acronym CPVT, which has a really long name, but it's an arrhythmia disorder. And it's part of a group of conditions collectively known as sudden arrhythmia death syndromes that are a group of arrhythmias that can very easily result in sudden death, sudden cardiac arrest. According to studies that have been done, these SADS conditions result in approximately 4,000 childhood deaths every year. It claims the life of more children than all forms of childhood cancer combined annually. And we've been through, when he was 6 years old, he suffered a sudden cardiac arrest and collapsed at home and was rushed to the hospital after he was revived by paramedics. And we, through a series of tests, one of which was a genetic test, confirmed that he did in fact have CPVT, which we didn't know was hereditary before, but found that I knew that I had the condition, but I didn't know that it was hereditary and could be passed on to my children. And so I have now Ammon, who has it, who received the wish, and now my youngest child, Orson, who has the condition as well.
And we had talked beforehand, probably, maybe a year ago now. You had expressed some interest in maybe starting a podcast yourself to kind of get the conversation going about this disease and opening up just that line of conversation for other families that are out there. And that's why I'm really happy for you to be able to put this out on our show. If it will reach anybody who has a similar condition, maybe they now know that it's hereditary as well. So I definitely appreciate you doing this and being so forthcoming and kind of explaining your son's condition.
Thank you.
Yeah. So from there, it becomes a Make-A-Wish cruise. Can you talk to us a little bit about like how that process begins? As far as does Make-A-Wish approach you? Do you approach Make-A-Wish, or how does that wish kind of come true?
Well, a wish kid can be referred for a wish by anybody, friend, family member, doctor, whichever, and it just a referral has to be started. Once that wish referral is submitted, then within a matter of time, you're contacted by Make-A-Wish, and they get information regarding doctor and about the condition, and then they they contact the doctor, and if the doctor approves this request and agrees that it is a life-threatening condition that qualifies for a wish, then they sign off on it, and the next step is to Make-A-Wish representatives schedule an appointment to come to the home and interview the child and the family to find out what the child's wish is.
So how did your process start? Did somebody refer you then, or how did it start?
Just my son at the time was really big into Star Wars, and he still is. He has other interests now beyond that, but at the time he was 100% into Star Wars. And he had seen something on the computer. He was 6 years old at the time, and he had seen something about a cruise. And so I had heard about Make-A-Wish, and I submitted a referral. I went online and I looked up what was about the organization and how that all works. And so I saw that it was pretty simple. You just submit a referral, and I submitted one. A child has to be 3 years old before they can qualify for a wish. And so he was over that age, so I went ahead and I submitted the wish request for him, referral. And then that got the ball rolling. And when the representatives showed up and asked him what his wish was, he very simply said, "I want to go on a cruise and fight Darth Vader."
Huh.
And when he said that, I was just like, yeah, that's my boy.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, a little bit about Make-A-Wish. I'm not totally prepared to talk about them. I do know they're a nonprofit organization that is throughout the United States. There are local chapters, local state chapters that provide these wishes for kids throughout the country. And their website is wish.org for those who would like to learn more about them. They also partner with Give Kids the World down in Walt Disney World. So I know there's a lot of Disney fans that are familiar with Give Kids the World. But Make-A-Wish is just a little bit bigger organization that goes beyond just the Disney dreams is for what they provide for kids. But wow, what an exciting thing. So you put that out there. That's his wish, to go to see and fight Darth Vader. How did it come about that you learned that his wish was granted?
Well, the Make-A-Wish reps, Brenda and Yvonne, they called me up. I'd say it was probably about 2 to 3 weeks after the wish was submitted. This was in February when the wish was submitted, and they called me up pretty soon after that and said, "Well, we want to grant this wish, and we've got approval to grant this wish from the national organization, because it couldn't be done just through the chapter, the local chapter. So they had to go to Make-A-Wish National to make it happen." And then they said, "How quickly can you get your passports?" And so at that point, I knew this was on, that as long as we could get our passports in time for them to book the cruise, we were going.
Mm.
So at that point, they kind of gave you the dates that they were looking for and an idea of the time frame as far as when the cruise would be?
Yeah. At that point, they only had one booking left available for a family of 5. There was my wife and I. We hadn't had the new baby yet, so it was my wife and I, our 2 boys, and our daughter. There was one sailing left that was the Star Wars Day at Sea cruise, and that was going to leave out April 16th.
Wow.
And come back April 23rd.
So you're a little bit under the gun, making sure you get those passports done in time and making sure this happens for Eamon.
Right.
Could you talk a little bit about the day that Eamon found out his wish was coming true and how that was presented to him?
Yes. Actually, it was probably about, I'd say, roughly about 2 weeks before we left, Make-A-Wish called us up and said, we'd like to do a party for you guys. There was one other Wish kid who was leaving from Houston on the same Wish he had leukemia and was in remission from that. And so they wanted to do a party here in Houston for us. And they invited the 501st to the 501st Legion Costume Charity Organization to come in and have a little party with us. And it was at a place called Dave & Buster's. It's like burgers, wings, and games type place. And so they did a private room for us, and the 501st Legion came in, and we had pictures, and they brought out R2-D2, and it was just a great time. And then they gave all of us, and especially the kids, a huge amount of tokens to go and play the games. And the 501st members in costume went and played games with us.
Wow.
How cool is that?
Yeah. So Ammon was playing video games right along with Stormtroopers and Jedi. And
were they in character the whole time?
Yes, they were.
Wow.
There was one guy that dressed up as he was a X-Wing pilot, and my son's favorite character at the time was Luke Skywalker. And so the only X-Wing pilot that he knew of was Luke. And this guy hadn't dressed up to portray Luke, but when Ammon said, it's Luke Skywalker, he fell right into character. And palled around with my son the rest of the day, just as if he was Luke Skywalker.
What an amazing night. That had to have been like right up there with the memories of the cruise. Like, this is wow, what an experience.
Yeah, and the partnership between Make-A-Wish and the 501st didn't stop there. So there's more that I have to tell about that.
The 501st is a pretty amazing organization. I didn't really know much about it. One of the guys that I work with actually is part of it down in the Bay Area, and he's a stormtrooper for them. And I listened to him one night talk about all the different stories about going to the children's hospitals, and they do a lot of other things as well. But I mean, that's the thing I think that's really touched his heart the most. You could tell when he was talking about it was being able to have an impact on kids and just see their eyes light up when they see a group of stormtroopers walk into the hospital rooms and stuff. So what an amazing organization, along with Make-A-Wish.
And Ammon's Wish, along with a few others that particular year, is what inspired the members of the 501st to start an endowment fund to raise money specifically for Make-A-Wish to grant Star Wars related wishes.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of good being done out there in the world for kids like that. So, and what an amazing story. So before we jump into the cruise itself, when you guys leave out of Orlando, how was the process getting down there? Was that did Make-A-Wish kind of help you out with everything there as well, as far as the airline tickets and hotel rooms prior? Yes,
they didn't do hotel rooms prior or after, pre or post cruise, but they did take care of everything else. The transportation to the airport, the flight, the transfer with Disney transfers to the cruise terminal, and transfers back to the airport, and flight and transportation home was all taken care of. There wasn't a thing that we had to worry about. They came at there was a limo transportation company that came at about 4 o'clock in the morning, thereabouts, that morning, to pick us up from our home and drive us to the airport. So it was a rather early morning. But we got up and they took us to the airport. we got our bags checked on the plane. We didn't see our bags again until we were at our stateroom, and everything just went very smooth.
I know they have representatives that come out to the airport as well. There's volunteers that usually hang with you guys before the flight leaves. Did you guys have that as well?
They tried to arrange that, but I guess with the flight leaving so early in the morning, it was one of the first flights out from Houston to Orlando.
Okay. And just to go back to, before we jump into the cruise one more time, some of the things that you can do, and I know that the airlines do, you can donate airline miles, so that's part of the way that people can get kids and families transported back and forth to their wish if it's something that's going to be outside of town. And I know our airline does donate so many miles per year towards Make-A-Wish as well as Disney, and that's something I'd like to delve into a little bit more on a different show, as far as how much the Disney company actually does donate a lot of these cruises and money as well, and time in the parks for these kids as well. So it's kind of a whole team making this happen, I guess, is what I'm trying to get out there.
Yeah.
So there we go. You guys are away. You are into Orlando, Port Canaveral. You guys are going to be on the Fantasy, and let's talk about the cruise. Was it a 7-day or a 5-day to the Western Caribbean?
It was a 7-day.
7-day. Okay. And Christy, you've been on these cruises before. Have you seen some of the Make-A-Wish kids on board as well?
We've for sure seen one, and I don't know if we've seen others.
Okay.
So.
I just remember there was, I don't want to take away from your show, Brandon, but I remember the very first one we went on, there was a family right next door to us, and this is why it's a little bit special to my heart, I guess. And it was a Make-A-Wish kid, and it was a girl who was confined to basically a bed that they rolled around, and they took her everywhere. It was amazing. They had her in the kids clubs, and the counselors were working with her in the kids clubs as well. And it's just, I don't know, it's just an amazing organization to see these wishes come true for kids. So let's talk about yours, Brandon.
Okay.
So 7-day cruise to the west on the Fantasy to the Western Caribbean. What did they book for you as far as staterooms go, since you had 5 people going with you?
We had a deluxe family ocean view stateroom with it was one porthole, and it was adequate for us. It was a really nice stateroom. We were on deck 6, right above the kids clubs. Well, I take that back. We were aft, so not right above the kids clubs, but close enough.
Easy access to get to the kids clubs for them.
Yes, very easy access. Just one floor down and walk straight to the kids clubs. It was great, and my kids, they loved the kids clubs. My daughter wasn't old enough to go in there, but both Ammon and my oldest Malachi loved going there. And as the cruise went on, they spent more and more time in there.
That's great.
So.
Did they give you any information about it? Were you guys Disney fans beforehand? So did you know a lot about Disney Cruise Line beforehand? Or had you been to Walt Disney World? Or I guess what I'm getting at is, did you have any information before you actually went on this cruise as far as, planning it or anything else?
My wife and I had looked into Disney cruises and Disney World, Disneyland, but we really didn't know what to expect. We had seen the videos and stuff, but nothing that would do it justice. And so we were kind of going into this somewhat blind. I mean, when we knew we were going on the cruise, we had watched some videos, and so that we would kind of know a little bit of what to expect. But the level of detail, the level of service, the way Disney does things, words can't express it. You have to experience it.
Yeah, it's pretty special. So now, with the Star Wars component, like today, you would register online with your online check-in to register for the events. But I believe when you cruised and when I did my Star Wars Day at Sea cruise, we signed up to do the events when we got to our stateroom. Like, you put a bid in for what you wanted. Did you do that, or how did your experience work a little bit different because it was Make-A-Wish, or?
Well, it started out like anybody else, but we had a good rep. There is a rep on board the ship that is from guest services that helps with things with the Make-A-Wish families, and
Oh, wow.
and adds little other things that maybe we didn't think of, like the character meet and greet. They booked a special, or they got us the tickets for the Frozen meet and greet for my daughter.
Yeah.
That we didn't even think of and didn't know about, and those tickets just showed up in our stateroom from the Make-A-Wish rep. And so we had filled out the form with the character experiences that we wanted for Star Wars Day. And on the day of Star Wars Day, or the night before Star Wars Day, I had gone to guest services and I talked to the rep and kind of said, this was my son's wish, was to, because I was concerned about the Jedi Training Academy, because I had heard from others that it was first come, first serve, that they select the child from, at least that year, they were just handpicking the children from the audience. And I wanted to make sure that, my son got this experience and that we wouldn't have to go and for the show multiple times until he got selected. So I went and I talked to her, and she said that she would see what she could do. What ended up happening is the assistant cruise director came and got us that morning from our stateroom early, like right after breakfast. He tracked us down and came and got us, and he took us to every single one of the photo ops for all of the characters, took us to the front of the line so that Ammon could get his picture taken with every single one of those special characters. And then for the Jedi Training Academy, we went to I think it was the second showing of it, and he was wearing his Make-A-Wish shirt, and he got picked like midway through. He was chosen to go up, and they not only chose him but his brother as well.
Wow. So this happens again in the Walt Disney Theater, the big theater at the front of the ship is where they do this?
Yes.
And could you talk a little bit again about what the Jedi training is? It similar to what they do at Walt Disney World, where they bring the kids up, they put them through training, and then something special happens at the end?
Yes. And since this was the first year of it, they didn't have any of the other characters, dark side characters that appear at the end. They just had the one, Darth Vader.
Okay.
And so that was the shining moment of his entire cruise. This was the one thing he specifically had wished for.
Right.
Was to be on the cruise ship and fight Darth Vader, and he got his wish.
And what was that moment like for you, watching him up there battling Darth Vader?
I can't lie, I cried. It brought tears to my eyes that here was this little boy who was faced. I mean, he looked up there on the stage. He looked about the size of Yoda, but he was facing off against Darth Vader, and with all the smoke and the lights, and it was incredible.
Did he win?
Yes, of course he won.
So many metaphors in that story there, Brandon, of a small child battling evil, which could be Darth Vader, the disease. So what a special moment.
Well, that's one thing that I've tried to talk to him about, is with this heart condition, is it's affected by adrenaline. Part of the condition is catecholaminergic polymorphic ventricular tachycardia is actually the full name of the condition. But catecholamine is the chemical in adrenaline that speeds up the heart rate. and the brain senses that there's a higher amount of catecholamine than what the body is actually producing. So it tells the heart to beat faster than what it should, and it sends it into an arrhythmia. So very much like how Yoda says in episode, I believe episode 1, he says to Anakin, fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Well, for this condition, fear, anger, hatred, those negative emotions contribute to a rise in adrenaline, which can aggravate the condition or bring on an episode. And so we, tell him, don't go down the path to the dark side. Don't, control your anger, control your fear, stay calm. And just to see him up there on this stage battling the figurative embodiment of what we've come to associate as the embodiment of CPVT and SADS, and to battle it back. I mean, that was a proud moment for me.
Well, what an amazing moment for you and your family. It's hard to move on from that story, but yeah, amazing. Let's talk about, I guess, some of the other experiences on that, since we're on the topic of the Star Wars DSC. What were some of the other experiences you guys got to do after that? You got to meet the characters. You got to battle Darth Vader, the penultimate of his wish. How did the rest of the day go, or what other experiences do you remember that you guys got to do?
Well, day 1 was, of course, a sea day, going down to Cozumel. Day 2, we were in Cozumel, and we had booked all of our excursions through Disney Cruise Line. And the first excursion that we did, I wish I had booked something different, but I thought, this would be really cool, is to go tour the ruins. And now looking back on it, my kids are kind of, oh, that was kind of cool. But they're not as much into doing historical tours as I am. But we went on that, and after touring the ruins and taking some pictures around the ruins, we went to the cacao chocolate factory and toured that and sampled the chocolate and then got back on board the ship. One of the things that we really, really enjoyed as far as the entertainment aboard was the Broadway shows. We made a point to go to all of the shows each night, and our favorite had to be Aladdin. That's the big show for the fantasy, and it was hilarious.
How's the genie in that?
He's really good.
He is awesome. He brought in a lot of pop culture jokes, making fun of the Kardashians and others, and it was quite funny.
Yeah, he steals the show for sure.
Oh yes. and later he shows up in another night with all the characters, and again pretty much steals the entire show when he shows up on stage.
And I'm not sure about this, Chrissy. Are the shows on the fantasy, are they similar to the classic ships at all? Do they have like Disney Dreams and the Golden Mickeys, or are they different from the bigger ships to the smaller ships?
Don't have Golden Mickeys, but I feel like they have the Dream. Do you remember, Brandon, what the names of the shows were?
They had Dreams, Wishes, and then they had
one more, right?
Yeah, they had one more in Aladdin. And then they had a night with a magic act. They had one night with a magic act, and then I think one night with a ventriloquist.
Oh, so maybe it is just Dreams and Wishes and Aladdin's, right? And Aladdin, because they start with that, like, whatever that show is that they do the first night that welcomes you on board and gives you, like, the taste of everything, I think, right?
Right. So. And then the second night, which was our Cozumel day. That was the night for Aladdin. Or no, the night on board the sea day was Aladdin. And so then after Cozumel, we went from there to Grand Cayman. And as far as our port days, Grand Cayman, with the exception of course, Castaway Cay, Grand Cayman was our favorite.
That is a nice island. Were you guys, did I miss this? Or did you got to pick your own excursions, correct?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
And we had because of when we got our booklet and check-in stuff, we had to book all of our excursions on board the ship.
Oh, because you got it just before?
Right. To back up a little bit, when we boarded the ship, we found out where Cabanas was and went to Cabanas for lunch, and then after that went straight to the Port Adventures desk and booked all of that and got our kids checked into the kids clubs, and then did the safety drill, and then immediately after did the deck party.
I know we've been a little bit all over on this cruise as far as talking about the different experiences. Did the Make-A-Wish representative from Disney, did they help you out with any of that as you came on board saying, hey, this is what you need to do next for the Port Adventures, or did you guys just kind of figure that out yourself?
We just kind of figured that out ourselves. It wasn't until later that evening, I guess as we were getting ready for dinner, that we actually met the Make-A-Wish rep.
And then were they available for you through the rest of the cruise then to kind of handle things for you if you needed anything done?
Yeah, anytime that we needed anything, we could just contact her and let her know what we needed, and she'd get it taken care of.
So back to Grand Cayman, what did you guys do in Grand Cayman then?
We booked the Turtle Farm excursion. That was a really, really nice experience. We boarded the bus, air-conditioned bus to the Turtle Farm. It was probably a good 30-minute drive to the Turtle Farm. On the way to the Turtle Farm, we passed by Elton John's home. He actually has a home there in Grand Cayman, right on 7 Mile Beach. It was interesting to note that Grand Cayman doesn't pay any taxes.
Why? He's got a home there, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then we got to the Turtle Farm, and they gave us some turtle food to feed them, and we went around and saw all the bigger turtles in the breeding tanks. And then they took us over to where the baby turtles are, or a little bit bigger than the babies. They were ones that we could actually pick up and handle. That was a really neat experience for the kids to be able to hold a sea turtle, and got some really cool photos with that. And then after that, they took us over to an area to have a traditional Caribbean barbecue with barbecued chicken and plantains, and that was some really good food that included in the price of our excursion. And then after we ate, we had the choice of going to, they have an area with some water slides, or we could go and snorkel at the lagoon, where we could snorkel with sea turtles and fish and everything. And so we chose to do the snorkeling. There was the water slide on board the ship and the pools on board the ship, and we figured let's go snorkel. And while we were snorkeling, my son Ammon had struggled before this cruise with a fear of like the deep end at the pool and with swimming in general, and preferred to stay in the very shallow area. But I convinced him that, I'll with the life vest and the mask, just put your mask on, hold on to me, and you and I will go out, and you can hold on to me the whole time. I told him I won't let you go. And the moment he put his face in the water and looked down and saw the fish and the turtles, his body totally relaxed. And I've never seen him so calm other than when he's been sleeping until that moment. And he was just totally relaxed and just, I wish I would have had a GoPro camera to take a picture of his face, because his jaw dropped and he was just in awe of this, all the color of the fish and how deep the water really was. Because in that lagoon, it had to be at least 50 feet deep.
I love the way traveling can break down barriers like that for kids and adults alike to overcome some of those trepidations. And man, what a great job you did too by kind of reassuring him and getting him out there and letting him have that experience.
Yeah, it was really good. And then that night when we got back on board, it was, if I remember correctly, that was our night it was the following night. We had Royal Court. So our rotations for dining, the first night was Enchanted Garden, and then we had Royal Court, Animator's Palette, and then the rotation started over with that, and then ended the cruise at Animator's Palette.
Was he able to do the talk with Crush at Animator's Palette? Did Crush come by?
They seated us at a table kind of in the middle of the dining room, so we weren't seated next to any of the screens, unfortunately.
Okay, that would have been kind of a cool day after experiencing the fish and the turtles and everything like that, to go to Animator's Palette and see that, I think. Yeah,
that would have been cool.
Do you have any other memorable moments about the dinners and food on board?
Just the variety of food. We got to try things that we would never get to try at home. Just escargot being one of them.
Did you try it?
Oh, yes.
Did you like it?
I loved the escargot. And if I didn't know at the time, being very inexperienced with cruising, that I could have ordered as much of that as I wanted. When and if we go back on another cruise, I will order my fill.
Christy, are you a fan of the escargot?
No, I don't eat seafood.
That is.
I don't eat seafood that everybody likes, so I think escargot is definitely not something I'm going to try. I have tried for years. We were just talking about this last night. I kept trying because seafood seems so wonderful. I just can't do it.
Well, all the more for me then.
Yes, for sure. You can have my lobster too on lobster night.
Yes, and that was the night actually that they had the escargot, was on Steak and Lobster night.
There was one cruise, I think it was on Disney too, where the waiter just brought my mom all of our just ordered us all lobster and then just brought it all to her because my husband doesn't eat lobster either. She had 3, and I think she ate them.
And that is one thing that really was great about the dining experience, besides the food, was the wait staff. They really got to know us. The first night we ordered our drinks, and every night after that, those same drinks were right there.
Isn't that amazing? And you don't even have. That is my favorite part about cruise ship dining and having the same waiter each night, because some cruise lines are going where you can come and go as you please, or you pick and choose your restaurant. But that having the same waiter where they know exactly your preferences, and they don't have to ask you how you want your steak cooked after the first night, or it's the best.
And the fact that they cut your child's steak for you.
Yes.
You don't even have to ask for it. They just do it. And it was, Darko was our waiter from Ukraine, and he did magic tricks. He was excellent.
Yeah, if you're remembering too his name 2 years later, that is impressive.
I've got a good memory for names and faces once I know somebody after after spending 7 days on board the ship.
I guess talking about nights, did you guys have a pirate night? And what did you think of that? Since the first time you tweeted out to me, I saw that Captain Jack Sparrow as your kind of icon.
Yes, pirate night was really good, with all of the people dressed up. When it came time for the actual pirate show on deck, they had some technical difficulty.
Oh.
So they had to postpone the show until the last day on board, or the last. Yeah, it was Castaway Key Day.
Okay.
When we came back on board from Castaway Key, they had the show.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Castaway Key quick, and then we'll finish up with the show and kind of close it out. But what was your impressions of Castaway Key?
Beautiful, beautiful island. I miss it. We spent most of the time just splashing around in the beach and having lunch, and then did the water slides.
Pelican Plunge. That's so much fun, isn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
The water, though, was rather cold for us. I mean, we're from Houston, with Galveston really close by, and the water's really warm. And so the water at Castaway Key was a little on the chilly side in April, but
still
still very good day.
So you guys come back on and you do pirate night, you do the show that night, and then you're back to port the next day. Is that correct?
Yes.
But what an amazing kind of way to finish off the cruise with the show and the fireworks. What did Amon think of that?
Actually, the fireworks they did not do on Pirate Night because of the Star Wars Day at sea.
Oh, okay.
So the fireworks were actually Star Wars Day. With the Star Wars deck party.
I did not realize that. So after the deck party ended, that's when they did the fireworks on Star Wars Day at sea.
Yes.
Gotcha. But still kind of a neat way to end the cruise with. Did you guys do the deck party, or did you guys do the farewell show? Or were you able to do both, where they have that in the atrium or the lobby?
We did not do the farewell show. Okay. We went to bed. We were pretty tuckered out at that point.
Well, as all things kind of do, your cruise comes to an end back at Port Canaveral. How was disembarkation and getting back to Houston for you guys?
Very smooth.
Okay.
Very, very smooth. We went through customs real quick and just a few little questions, and we were on our way. And we didn't see our bags after we put them outside our stateroom. We didn't see our bags again until we got to baggage claim in Houston.
It's just kind of magical, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's kind of a sad day for everybody. That day you get off the ship and you leave, and especially when you fly home that day too. But your wish didn't end there, or Hammond's wish didn't end there. Talk about how it kind of ended up once you guys got back to Houston.
Well, after we got back to Houston, it was about a couple of days later, I get a call from a guy with the 501st Legion, and he said that he was working with the reps from Make-A-Wish, and he wanted to do something special for us. And he had actually spoke to me before we left on the cruise and had asked me if Ammon would like a custom-made Jedi costume.
Whoa.
And I had said, yeah. And my obvious reaction was, how much? And he said, no, this is part of his wish. We're going to take care of it, and we want to make this for him. So we got him the sizes and everything, and I didn't know when things were going to happen as far as that went. But after we got back from the cruise, a couple days later, I get the call from him, and he said that Comic Palooza was coming up, the big comic convention in Houston at the George R. Brown Convention Center, and that they were going to have a booth and that they wanted to do something special for us and get us tickets to it. And so took down information as to who all was going to, from our family, was going to be able to go, and it just happened to be Father's Day weekend. So when Father's Day weekend rolls around, they have us go to Comic Palooza. We get there, we get all checked in with our passes, and they have it set up where at some point during this, while we're walking around, just meandering around, looking at all the booths and whatnot, I was advised for until further notice to stay away from the 501st booth, the Star Wars area, and just look around at other things. And pretty soon, the guys from, or some people from the 501st Legion came up. They were all dressed in their Imperial Stormtrooper garb. There was a snow trooper and some guys dressed in Imperial officer uniforms. And they came up and they surrounded us and had me. I had a little bit of heads up as to what was going to happen beforehand, but Ammon had absolutely no clue what was going to happen.
Perfect.
And so they had wanted posters done up of me, and they were looking for me. And so when they found us, they surrounded us and had me go to my knees, and they put me in handcuffs and hauled me away. And as they were hauling me away, a couple of Jedi Knights swoop in and take Ammon off, and they go and they train him as a Jedi, and they get him suited up in his Jedi costume, his custom-made Jedi costume, movie quality, from the boots on up to the robe, everything, just like he walked off a movie set.
Does he get to keep that?
Yes, he still has that. We have that in a box set aside. It doesn't fit him anymore, but yes, he has that. In addition to that, they also presented him with his very own dueling class lightsaber.
Wow.
Movie quality that he could actually duel with, and he has that as well. And so after they trained him, I was over with the 501st Legion where they had an area set up like the Emperor's throne room. And the guy, William Holmes, who is he is the head of the Rebel Legion costume group, the good guys, he had actually dressed up as the Emperor to help out the 501st. And then there was another guy that was Roger Valles that was dressed as Darth Vader. And so Ammon was brought over to where I was at and had to free me from the Empire by destroying Darth Vader and the Emperor.
Wow, what an amazing experience for him.
Yeah.
And since I'm talking to you, obviously he survived.
Yes.
Were there a lot of people around to watch this as it happened?
Yes. There were a lot of people around to watch this. There was all sorts of photos being taken, video footage being taken. And when the 501st Legion decided to do the endowment, some of the footage from that event made it into their promotional video for their initial fundraising video that they did to raise funds for the endowment. And then they have a newsletter that goes out globally to 501st Legion members, and the story was put in that.
Well, what an amazing end to, and I hate to say end, but kind of way to finish off just an amazing experience for your family and Ammon and his wish with Make-A-Wish.
Yes, and I mean, Make-A-Wish has been there for us. One of the things that they said whenever they came to interview Ammon and grant his wish is they said to us that from now on, you guys are family. And that can't be any more true in the fact that they pitched in and helped us out recovering. We were one of the families that lost everything in Harvey when Harvey hit Houston.
Oh, geez.
And our house had 5 feet of water in it and 1-story home. And we had just moved in and had only been in our house for 2 weeks when Harvey hit. And so Make-A-Wish came in and helped us recover almost everything that we lost.
Are you back in the same house, or did you have to find?
We're back in the same house now.
Okay.
And we've been back in our home now for about 2 months.
Well, I'm glad things have come back together for you guys and your family then.
Yes, thank you. we couldn't have done it without Make-A-Wish. So.
Any other questions you have, Christy? Or
one comment on Make-A-Wish is I know that they have local events, so every listener can go out and I have friends and clients that have had a wish granted through Make-A-Wish, and they do continual fundraising efforts. So they have bowling nights in the area, and they have just different events. And I think you can go to the website, Make-A-Wish website, and look for events in your area. Obviously, you can donate, but look for events in your area to participate, which helps raise money for the organization.
And Brandon, any tips that you have for listeners who might be in a similar situation as you for reaching out towards Make-A-Wish, or anything that you'd like to add as far as tips go for our listeners?
As far as tips, if you are going on a cruise with Make-A-Wish for your child, one thing that would make it really special is join the Facebook group for your cruise. We didn't know to do that beforehand, and I think it would have made it even more special. But I've seen other Wish families do that, and it does make it a lot more special. The people from when they know that there's a Wish kid that's in the Facebook group, they pixie dust them with little gifts, odds and ends of stuff. But if you do have a child that has a life-threatening condition, don't hesitate to contact Make-A-Wish and submit a referral for them. It really is just a total relief from an escape from the day-to-day grind of doctor's appointments and hospital visits and the like, to be able to get an escape from that and truly have a magical experience with whatever your child's wish is.
Well said. Brandon, I really want to thank you today for coming on. Thank you so much for being a supporter of our show since the very beginning. It's meant a lot to all of our listeners, mean a lot, but it's really been a pleasure interacting with you, and I hope that continues to interact with you as the show and our lives continue. And I really want to thank you for taking time to kind of tell your family story, Ammon's story, the Make-A-Wish story, and I hope that it has a special place with all our listeners out there as it does for me and I think Christy today.
Absolutely.
You're welcome.
So as we close out the show, thanks again for coming on, and I look forward to tweeting and talking with you soon, Brandon.
Thank you. Likewise.
All right, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Well, that is going to wrap up our show today. Once again, I really want to thank Brandon for coming on and sharing his family's and especially Ammon's experiences. They took their Make-A-Wish cruise on the Disney Fantasy. And if anybody out there would like to learn a little bit more about Make-A-Wish, you can always go to their website, wish.org, and you can find information about your local chapter or supporting them nationally as well, either through donations or through, as Christy was talking about, events that may be happening in your local area. In addition to Make-A-Wish, the 501st Legion really provided a lot of the experience that Ammon and Brandon's family experienced as they kind of went through their wish. If you'd like to learn more about the 501st, you could also go on their website, the 501st, that's 501st.com, and there's just a wealth of information on that Legion and how you can support them and some of their causes. Well, as I said, I believe on the last show, Christy and I are going to take a little bit of a hiatus here for a couple weeks. She and her family are headed out to Alaska on Princess Cruise Lines, and our family's headed over to the Mediterranean on the Disney Magic. So if you'd like to follow us along, you can definitely do that. Come on over to Facebook and Twitter at DCL Podcast for myself, and Christy, I'm sure, will be posting on her page as well, packyourpixiedust.com. So kind of follow us along as we head out on our adventures here over the next couple weeks. We've got quite a few shows already set up and ready to go once we get back, and we'll be looking forward to bringing those to you sometime around the first couple weeks of July. So for all of you who are heading out on your next trips before we come back on our next show, all of us here at the DCL Podcast would like to wish you fair winds and safe travels as you head out on your next adventure. Thanks, everybody, for coming back and taking a listen. And once again, we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.